Hi, my name's Josie. I'm coming to you from the city of West Torrens. Thanks for joining me today for our youth teen book taster. The idea of a book taster is to give you a bit of an idea of some things that are going on in youth fiction. I've chosen some books that I recommend, and I have no affiliation with any of the authors or publishers. These are purely my choices. What I'm going to do is show you 3 topical books and give you a bit of an introduction and a reading from each book. Thanks for joining me today. It's good to see you here. All right, first of all, it has been Pride Month in the US, so I've chosen a book for that one, and that is My Lovely Frankie. Here it is here. This one is brought to us by Alan and Unwin, so thank you so much for allowing me to read this online and do this review. So Judith Clarke wrote this book. She's an Australian author. It's based in Australia in the 1950s, so it's a historical fiction of sorts. My Lovely Frankie refers to one of the characters in the book, who is of course Frankie, and Frankie is a beloved friend of Tom. Tom is a lovely boy, an only child, who's decided to give more, wants more from his life, so he's decided to join the local seminary. Now in 1950s, the Catholic community, it would be normal for a family to send one of their children to become a priest. This is slightly unusual in that he's an only child and his parents are a little baffled, but they support his choice to go and live in the seminary and become a priest. Now, Frankie takes it all very seriously, but it's quite a shock when he gets there, and it's a different culture than what he thought it would be, and he soon loses his faith. And there's a really interesting conversation around that. The whole story is told in his voice, and it's really interesting to see his journey. It's a reflective journey, so he's telling it from as an adult, as an older man, much later in his future, looking back on his life during this time. He meets gorgeous Frankie, who he instantly falls in love with, although he's not actually convinced of this at the time. I don't think he's really aware that he's gay. His family, who are quite unusual for the time, are supportive of gay relationships, saying that it's only love that counts. But in this context, a 1950s Catholic community, it would be outlandish and certainly not acceptable, and he's in the seminary. So he loves Frankie, he sees all these beautiful things in him, and Frankie himself is full of love too. Frankie falls in love with a girl just from seeing her across the street, and it's such a gorgeous portrayal of his real first love too. So yeah, both of them are in unrequited love situations, but it's really not about that. It's about the relationship of them both finding themselves, I guess. And it's quite heartfelt, and there's absolutely nothing to do with them being gay, really. It's just love. It's just love. And the support that they give each other in this really difficult, challenging environment, which, you know, isn't quite the place that they would hope it to be. But I've picked a little part of this book for you, which is where they, I think Tom really gets a first inkling that, you know, Frankie is someone truly special and ends up being the love of his life. Spoiler alert. No, it's not, because there's a lot more to it than that. Now, they've just been to the dentist. Frankie had to go to the dentist, and they see the sea, and he's never been to the sea. So they take this fantastic opportunity to run off and have a look at the ocean. And this is how it goes. The sea! The sea! The sea! Soon I was yelling too. Come on! I forgot all about being students from St. Finbarr's. We tore across the road. We didn't bother with the steps, hurling ourselves from the low wall onto the sand, pounding down towards the beach, towards the water. Frankie was faster than me. He reached the edge before I was halfway down. And when I caught up with him, he was standing perfectly still, absorbed, entranced. his eyes fixed on the blue line of the horizon and the white crests of the waves rolling in and spilling up the sand. Despite all the running, his face was oddly pale, and suddenly he closed his eyes, like he'd done when we were coming down the hill and the wind had struck his jaw. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine." Those glorious eyes opened and turned to me. "Thank you," he said. "What for?" "For this." He waved towards the sea. "For showing me." "But you would have seen it anyway." "Not today. Not now. Not this very minute. Sometimes I think that's all that matters." He tore all at the laces of his boots, pulled them off and slung them around his neck. "What's all that matters?" I pulled off my own boots and let the waves run over my feet. They were warm. "This very minute, this." He waved towards the sea again. "This lovely, lovely world. Oh, let's go." And off he went, racing towards the tide line, and I ran after him, and we yelled and we shouted at the sea and the sky as if there really was only one very minute to be happy in. Isn't that gorgeous? Such beautiful description, and you can see like Frankie's view of the world is really special. My next book today is in recognition of Refugee Week. I think it's so important that we have a look and read authentic voices, so own voices. But this is actually a depiction of a refugee's life in a detainment centre, in a detention centre. So it's written by Clare Atkins and it's called Between Us. And I felt it was really authentic. I've actually got this copy from Black Ink and I've got a dyslexic print edition, so it's quite a lot bigger. Now first about just dyslexic print editions, you can see they've got either a DB here or you'll see the text looks a bit different. Can you see that? On different colour paper and bigger and using a special font. So if you have some reading issues, they're really a great read to make it a lot easier. We have lots of our teen fiction in these editions, so don't forget you can search for them under the catalogue under Dyslexic Edition. So this one is about Anahita. Now she's a gorgeous refugee girl who has been in the detention centre. Her family have been through a horrific ordeal in her own country, and then coming here to Australia has also been fraught. They've spent time on Nauru and there's so much trauma there in her experience. It's really gut-wrenching. She attends the local high school so that detainee children get aboard a bus and they go to the high school where she meets another character, Jono. Now Jono is a biracial boy who has a Vietnamese family who originally came here by boat and whose father came here, immigrated here from Vietnam. So there's a really interesting conversation around who is a legitimate Australian, who's okay to really be here. Is it the people who come on boats or the people who come here legally? So that's a really interesting little conversation that goes on in the book, and there's some dynamics there that are explored. The story, though, is really Anahita's story. It does go between Jono and Anahita, but really the core of it is what happens in the process of being a refugee and that trauma that happens to the family and the things that are going on in detention centres, which we all need to know about. It's our right and our obligation to know what's going on in this situation. So I felt it had a real life feeling to this book. It was very authentic, and the voices of Jono and Anahita are very rich and compelling. They're both really interesting characters, and it's a really important topic. So I hope you enjoy this one as well. Now my last one today I haven't read, did I read you? No, I didn't. I'll read you this little bit. from Anahita's story. This is a really tough bit in the book, actually, and I think, but it's important to know it's in here. As we walk back to the rooms, I hear a shout, then a panicked cry. I can't make out the words. Some men, and I saw on the soccer field, sprint towards the compound gate where people are gathering. There are two women in the centre of it, Jamile and Shadi, who are holding their baby boy. Millie and another officer seem to be herding them towards the gate to sand. Jamile pleads and begs, "Please, no, don't send us back. Please, no, not Nauru." Shady holds the baby tight, refuses to keep walking. Jamile falls to the ground, clutching Mile's leg. The crowd swirls around them, pulsing with anger, fear, dismay. Two more officers appear with another family, another baby, to be sent away. It's so sad. They're just living there not knowing what's happening next. And when it does happen, they're just terrified. And there's some really tough moments like that. I'm not going to be a spoiler and tell you what happens in the end. It is not what you expect. Okay, the last one is our dessert today, yay, is the Bone Sparrow. Oh, this book has won so many different awards and been nominated for so many different things. It has to be on your reading list. It's by Fraillon and Lothan Books, so thank you so much for letting us do our little review for you today. Now, Zara is actually releasing a new book and it's called The Lost Soul, so check that one out, coming out soon. This one, however, is a really amazing story based around Subhi, who is a refugee or born into detention. So he's actually never known life outside, and it's between the 10 and 12 years old mark. So he's got a whole life story based around living in a prison, more or less. He's come from a Burmese family who it's just the mother and him, which is similar to Anahita. They don't have the dad there. And in both stories, the mum is really suffering terrible mental health from the situation. The children are just surviving. And he's got this whole imaginary world that he's created to help him to feel like safe in this world, which, I mean, he obviously doesn't know any different, but wow, he's got this amazing little magical story going on in his own head. This is a lovely story of the importance of friendships and family and the stories and the memories that come from those stories that keep us going in really tough situations. He's got a friend called Eli, who he's adopted as his big brother because Eli's an orphan, and he has a great connection with him. There's also another story in this book around Jimmy, who's a girl who lives outside the centre. So that's a really fascinating story about the relationship that they build and how on earth does a girl from outside the centre get in there in the first place. This is such an amazing read. So many people have said, you must read this book. That's pretty compelling, isn't it? It is a really amazing story. This is a little bit from that. Sometimes at night, the dirt outside turns into a beautiful ocean, as red as the sun and as deep as the sky. I lie on my bed, Queenie's feet pushing against my cheek, that's his sister, and listen to the waves lapping at the tent. Queenie says I'm stupid saying that kind of stuff, but it's true. She just doesn't see it all, that's all. Our Ma says, there are some people in this world who can see all the hidden bits and pieces of the universe blown in on the north wind and scattered around in the shadows. Queenie, who never tries to look in the shadows, she doesn't even squint. Ma sees though. She can hear the ocean outside too. You hear it, yeah? I whisper, my fingers feeling for her smile in the dark. That's a little bit about his magical world he's created. This is a little bit about his description of life inside the centre and about the guards. Harvey, he's one of the jackets. Most jackets don't bother with us limbo kids, except to search for us, to search us over with their beeper wands or shove us out of the way. But not Harvey. All the kids like Harvey. Some of the other jackets can be nice enough too, but not like Harvey. Usually the nice ones don't stay too long anyway, but Harvey's been here longer than me even. The first thing Harvey does when new kids arrive is to learn their names so that he can talk with us for real instead of talking to us by our numbers. Most people have their boat ID as their number. Ma is Nap 24 and Queenie is Nap 23, but I was born here, so I have a different ID. Dar 1, that's me. The 1 is because I was the first baby ever born here. But Harvey, he won't use those numbers, not even when he's supposed to. So that gives you a bit of an insight into that one. So I hope you liked my teen book taster today. That's pretty much it for me. The Bone Sparrow, Between Us, and My Lovely Frankie. I hope you like those ones, and you can place them on hold today using the public library one card catalogue. I'll send you some links underneath this video so you can access them quickly. I've done a display in the library if you do get to come into Hammer Centre Library with a whole bunch of other books that have refugee stories, and also one for Pride Month, so lots of LGBTQI stories. Wow, that is such an acronym. All right, until I see you next time, thanks for joining me. Take care and do lots of reading. Bye for now.